So hello everybody and welcome to this Learning Live session. My name's Chris Watts. I'm the Learning Manager in the People Services Department.
And I'm Daria Sambunyak. I'm Learning Content Officer at the same department.
So welcome to this webinar. Today we're covering how to organise live online learning. This is our guide to running webinars and virtual workshops. So you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who are accustomed to Learning Live sessions, this will be familiar. We're going to pause a couple of times throughout presentation to take questions. The way that you can submit questions to us is there's this questions panel here. If you type your question in there, then Daria and I will receive it, and when we pause, we'll be able to read them out. The alternative is raise your hand. There's a little button over there on the left. You can raise your hand and we'll answer your question. We can unmute you so we can answer your question. So that's how we're going to interact with you today. Just by way of introduction, I'm joined by all of the learning team today. So here, I think, Dario, that's you and I. Is that in Edinburgh there?
Yeah, that was a Edinburgh colloquium, strolling through the streets of Edinburgh.
A rare occasion when the learning team, what was the learning team at the time, were together physically. So that's Dario and myself there. Also here you can see Ollie Willis, Jana Stojanova and Ruth Turley, who are all online today. Everybody here as part of the learning team supports webinars in one way or another. So this is just by way of introduction to the rest of the team. So just a little bit about what we're covering today. So this is, as you'll have seen when you signed up, this is very much about organising webinars. Hopefully it's going to be sort of more broadly of interest to those involved in sort of presenting as well, but that's our focus today. So we're going to kick off by talking a bit about advantages and disadvantages of different types of online learning. So we'd like to get you thinking about how you can learn online and the different ways that you can do that, and therefore choosing the best format for your audience. We'll then move on to the tools of the job. So that's the platforms that you can do your online learning. Tips about preparing your session, and also some tips, some good practice for running your session. And then we're going to finish off on evaluating, so how you feedback and how you might share afterwards.
Yeah, and perhaps before we start, Chris, I think perhaps it might be good to just a little bit of background to this webinar. Sure. This is something that we wanted to run or share our experiences, because this is mostly based on our experience. This is not something that we've done a thorough research. Not that we are not in favor of research, but this presentation is mostly based on our experiences. And we were thinking about running such a webinar for quite some time, but we never got to it, and then we started to receive some, inquiries about how can you share your experiences. So we decided, okay, let's run a webinar and see how it works, what happens, and this is what it is. So we'll see.
That's it. So this is something, and we think this, we very much, we'll come on to this at the end, but we very much think, don't we, Dario, that this is perhaps the first step in continuing to support the community in these kinds of endeavours. But on support, so our role, we run the Learning Live webinar program, so I'm sure you're all familiar with that. And we also provide direct support where there's priority learning needs for sort of live online learning sessions. Outside of that, we also provide best practice and bespoke advice. So we help people with how to do things. As Darius says, that's very much based on our own experience. And we'll also provide advice about platforms. So if you want to run live online learning, we can help you with how to choose the platform. What we don't provide is access to our platforms generally. That's because we don't have the license or the capacity to be able to do that. But we're happy to share advice. And there's a little bit of that coming up.